Leo, just for starters, it's been a really positive start to the season. You must be delighted with how the Pro 14 has gone so far. What's, I suppose, pleased you the most over the first 6 rounds of games?
Um, I think it was important to get off to a good start. I think after the disappointment of losing that quarter final against Saracens, I suppose the new season couldn't come around quick enough in many ways. So yeah, the group has been nice and competitive. A number of guys have gone on to get selected for Ireland, which has been very very pleasing as well to see what five new caps. In I suppose the early internationals that there's been. So and we've had some new caps represent Leinster as well. So yeah, plenty of positives. As always, there's lots to work on, and we've got some tough challenges coming up. So it's important that we have a big group of players to be able to select from, because there's usual challenges around Christmas. With lots of very competitive games, start of Europe, etc. So, and even this year, like with Europe as well, with the four games, makes the pool that bit more challenging. Even the fact that there's the teams that you play won't be playing the same teams that you're playing, if you understand me. So there's lots of different challenges within that. So yeah, for us now, it's game by game at the moment, and trying to get ourselves into good as position as possible for later in the season. But yeah, no, lots of guys are showing some good positive characteristics, which is pleasing.
Is the positive start kind of been all the more pleasing considering how difficult things have been with COVID and people having to adapt, players, staff, coaches having to adapt to that? And despite that, 6 wins from six to start the season.
Yeah, you see with lots of different teams, everyone's got a challenge at the moment. I think it's fair to say. You even see it with with the international series, with a couple of games being called off. We've had some games in the Guinness PRO14 that have been postponed, and some have been rescheduled. So, thankfully, touch wood for us, we've been okay so far, and we've got to play the games, and that's huge credit goes into everyone that works so hard to get proper processes and systems. And I think it's fair to say there's a little bit of luck that you need along the way as well. In terms of trying to avoid COVID getting into the group. So, as I said, touch wood, we've been okay. Wouldn't rest on our laurels at this point for at all. But every day there's challenges. All the teams we play against are missing players. With international call-ups and injuries, and I think after such a long break, there was always going to be a challenge around injuries as well. So. But as I said, overall, yeah, we're pleased with where we're currently sitting. But it's so early days in the season, and we all want to be making sure that we're in best possible shape when it comes to knockout games at the end of the season, whenever that is. As I said, I guess I guess there's a little bit of that hangover of that Saracens game. So we're not forgetting that completely. I think it's important that we do remember, we lost quarter final, so that was the big last knockout game that we played. So, but yeah, we're trucking on, and we know there's lots of tough challenges now coming up.
Speaking of Europe, obviously, it must be great to have so many guys, kind of debuts or young guys coming through, or whoever it may be, putting their hand up in this period with Europe just around the corner next month.
Well, there's lots of rugby on at the moment over the weekend that we can all observe. So all the leagues, the Premiership in England is back up and running this weekend as well. So plus with all the international games, so to see a lot of our guys represent Ireland is fantastic, and you just kind of get an understanding and watching those games very closely. And it's almost from our point of view, like we'd analyse our own games very closely, the Leinster games, but it's trying to have a look at what the Irish guys are doing, because we know it's going to be it's tight in terms of turnaround, and when we get those guys back for that lead into Europe. So we've two more games in this block of games. We knew it was going to be a big block for the guys that remain here. We talked about some of the guys that made their debuts in recent weeks, which has been fantastic. So they know, our guys know what's at stake, I think. Game against Cardiff this week, and next week against Scarlets, and that's kind of the end of the block. And then obviously when the internationals end, and then they come back in, and it's a different block of games for us. So yeah, so lots to look forward to.
Speaking of Cardiff, it's been a while since Leinster have actually played Cardiff, considering with COVID and just the structure of the competition, and longer still since they've been at the RDS. a team that have gone reasonably well at the start of the season, one of the top defences in the competition. What are you expecting now on Sunday?
Yeah, it's amazing the fact that you say it's been so long since we played them. We could probably pick one or two other teams that we might have played 5 times in the same period, maybe even more. So yeah, we've watched Cardiff a lot. Yeah, they've been in a different conference, so we haven't come across them quite as much as other teams. But yeah, they're a very well coached team. I think the probably thing that stands out, like for a lot of people, is the threat around the breakdown that they have. So they go very, very hard at the ball, and off some of those turnovers, they have a lot of pace. 2 very strong centres that are very dangerous ball carriers, and a very, very pacey back 3 as well. So yeah, we know it's going to be a tough challenge for us. At this time of year, some teams will miss a lot of players. Cardiff maybe not quite as much as other teams, so they have very, very strong core of players there pretty much all year round. So it's going to be a tough challenge for our guys for sure.
Is part of that what you mentioned there kind of informed the thinking around having the 6-2 split in the bench?
Exactly. Yeah, like it's something that we've sort of explored at various different stages, even earlier. I suppose when the season restarted initially, it's something that we looked to do as well. So, yeah, we're a little bit lighter on backs as well, and yeah, a few of the forwards have fancied themselves, I think, running around the wing potentially as well. So, we'll see how we go.
I wanted to ask you about Michael Bent, someone who's ever present, is such a key player for Leinster, probably even more so now with the injury to Kieran Parker. Just a word on him and his start of the season and just what he's brought over the last number of years, I suppose, to Leinster, is just kind of one of those cornerstones of the squad.
Yeah, well, he's a hugely popular member of the group for lots of different reasons. But yeah, from a playing point of view, he's been fantastic for us. Very important member of the squad. He's very giving of his time as well. In terms of some of our experienced players, that's what we want. To be able to pass it on to a certain degree in terms of the knowledge. And Benty's very, very good with some of the younger players, whether that's a young loosehead that's scrummaging against him or another tight head as well. So I think some of the younger guys find working with him hugely beneficial, and he's in particular around the scrum piece. But yeah, he's been a great contributor to Leinster Rugby over whatever it's been, 7 odd years, I think. So yeah, he's plenty of life in him still, so it's great to see him go well in this block.
And just lastly, speaking of the other rugby taking place this weekend, a massive day for James Ryan in particular. On Saturday he'll be captaining Ireland. Just a word on him and kind of the man that he is, the leader that he is, and that's brought him to the place where he is now, captaining Ireland against England on Saturday.
Yeah, James is making progress all the time. He's still an incredibly young man, 24 years of age. So yeah, but he's had a lot of experience in the last 3 years. So yeah, with Johnny being out, I think it's a natural step for James. I think he's a very important contributor here. I know he's a very important contributor in the Irish group as well. So huge challenge going over to England now. So we wish James well. But yeah, it's a fantastic challenge for him, fantastic honour. And yeah, he works incredibly hard. I know he spent a lot of time, during that lockdown period, even working on his leadership skills away from the game. So it's something that he's invested a lot of time in himself, and he's hungry to learn and improve. And they're the sort of qualities that we want in all the guys here.